honeysuckle perfumes. You guys have been requesting this for a while and I've kind of been putting it off because it's quite a difficult video for me. If you are new here, then hello, welcome. I'm all about perfumes. I have hundreds of videos like this going through perfume notes, new releases, whole ranges, perfumers, so do check out my other content. And if you're a regular viewer, do make sure you're subscribed and give the video a thumbs up. That really helps me. And of course, you can check out my fragrances, Empress Aphrodite, and my super concentrated soy wax candles. If you do like honeysuckle, there is a little bit of honeysuckle in my Secret Garden candle. And I think you'll also like my third release, which is going to be coming out around September this year, so watch out for that. And as always, all the links will be down below in the description box where you can get all the perfumes I talk about, where they're available around the world, North America, Europe, Australia, where they are available. Cool, so honeysuckle is quite a difficult, a rare note in perfumery. From what I understand, honeysuckle flowers are pretty much like almost impossible to harvest and use the oil in perfumery. They produce very little fragrance oil, unlike things like rose, jasmine, where you get these massive fields that produce loads and loads of flowers that are then turned into the fragrance oil. So from what I understand, the majority of perfumes that have a honeysuckle note will have a man-made honeysuckle note. Now there's definitely a lot of like misinformation around synthetic perfume notes. I think that word like synthetic, man-made has a lot of negative connotations. I definitely don't agree with that. So basically, and you may have seen recently, the BBC just did a piece on a number of big brands where the jasmine that was being picked and used in their fragrances, they found like little kids harvesting the fragrances, like harvesting the jasmine in Egypt, I think it was. If you create the scent in the lab, you don't have any of those supply chain issues. Most like flowers that are harvested for perfume are grown in like less developed countries where it's much harder to monitor the supply chain and know that all the labor being used is paid fairly and is all above board. You also have a massive carbon footprint, so you're like cutting down or using what would have been, I don't know, used for something else to grow all these fragrance flowers. You're then shipping them around the world. It has a really big carbon footprint, perfume oil. So obviously, again, if you're making it in the lab, then the carbon footprint is significantly smaller. And the ability of labs to recreate the real life scent of anything is perfect. Like, you cannot tell the difference between a synthetic and a real fragrance note. That's definitely something that the big perfume houses, perfumers are very, very good at. So if people say a perfume like smells synthetic or something, that's not the reason why. It might be because of another ingredient or something that has a plasticky vibe, I don't know. But so I would definitely say don't worry about the origins of whether it's come from an actual flower or it's been recreated in a lab, because you know it's like lab grown diamonds, they can recreate the exact same thing. So honeysuckle itself is a very delicate fragrance note. Again, it's not like things like jasmine, which are very strong, or tuberose. Honeysuckle tends to be maybe in the mix of a perfume, but it's never or rarely the star of the show. It gets overpowered by other stronger fragrances. It's very delicate. It's a little bit like a jasmine, and some people say it has a slightly vanilla undertone, like a warm, heady undertone. So I feel like a fragrance where it is the star of the show, and my top recommendation is from Aerin, and it is the Aerin Mediterranean Honeysuckle. I have it here in the travel spray, and for me, this actually does smell like honeysuckle. It's very pretty. It's very, I think, reminds me of like English country garden vibes. It's very green. You can smell the stems and it feels quite delicate. It's often combined with Lily of the Valley honeysuckle, but I definitely prefer it to Lily of the Valley. It's got a fresher tone to it, and Mediterranean honeysuckle I think is the best seller from Aerin, or one of the best sellers. They do it in beautiful gift boxes and like little pouches and stuff at Christmas time. So this is definitely my recommendation. The Aerin fragrances are quite pricey. You're looking at about £100 for the 50ml. However, they're one of the few brands which I find create quite delicate, pretty scents which actually last. Usually fragrances like this and a lot of the others I'm going to mention will fade quite quickly because the notes are so delicate, whereas I find the Aerin perfumes do last, and it's very rare to find a light fresh note that lasts for hours and hours. So I do think the Aerin fragrances are worth the money. Now the Mediterranean Honeysuckle past few years have had a limited edition. This year it's called Mediterranean Honeysuckle Tiare, so it has a tropical tiare flower in. If you're looking for honeysuckle, don't get the limited edition. This one with tiare flower, the tiare flower totally dominates over the honeysuckle. I love it because I love tiare flower, it's super tropical, but if you're looking for honeysuckle, just get the original. Same with last year's version that had clementines in. The clementine, like the orange notes, took over the honeysuckle, so just stick with the original. And you can get the Aerin perfumes in the UK 21% off on Look Fantastic with my code LFTF Soki, which works on everything on Look Fantastic pretty much. So my next recommendation is from Dior. Now the original Dior J'adore fragrance does have honeysuckle in it, but jasmine really comes through in it, and it has some tuberose as well, so you don't get a lot of honeysuckle. The edition that they released I think last year called J'adore Parfum de Eau, which is a water-based perfume, it doesn't have alcohol in, comes in the white bottle. For me, this has the honeysuckle coming through. It's got a fresh kind of like a melon top note, and then you do get that honeysuckle. You can still definitely smell the jasmine, but the honeysuckle is noticeably there, and it's a really elegant perfume. The J'adore fragrances are really elegant and pretty. My mum used to wear them when I was little, so they always take me back to being little, and I remember just thinking how elegant she smelled. The only issue with the Parfum de Eau is without the alcohol, it doesn't have much projection. That's why we put alcohol in perfumes, to get that projection, because alcohol evaporates. And it is of course quite expensive, so you don't get as much lasting power as you do from the Aerin, which is why the Aerin one's my top recommendation. Dior actually have another honeysuckle perfume which is even more honeysuckly than the J'adore Parfum de Eau, and that is the Diorella fragrance. Now this has been out for a long time and it has been reformulated over the years. When I worked in a shop selling perfumes, I used to really recommend these Diorella and the other, like, I think they're called Creations de Monsieur Dior, and because they're not advertised, you don't really hear about them like Miss Dior is advertised everywhere, J'adore, but they're really cute little bottles, they're really unique, you know, your friends aren't going to have them. What's happened over the years is they've all become eau de toilette, so they're not particularly strong. But if you are looking for honeysuckle perfume, then Diorella has lots of honeysuckle in. It also has a lemony opening note, so it's very fresh, and then there is a hint of vetiver in the base, which is a woody green note, so it adds some depth to it. But if you're looking for something a little bit unusual, I do recommend Diorella. I wouldn't be surprised if Dior discontinue all these things like Diorella, like Forever and Ever Dior. The number of them has been going down slowly over the years. There's only a few they still do. They used to have like 10 of them, and so I really wouldn't be surprised, because they just seem to focus all their marketing and everything on their big flagship perfumes. So I have two recommendations from niche brand Ellis Brooklyn. The Florist perfume recreates the sense of being in a flower shop. This uses a lot of white floral notes. It also has a pear opening, which I love pear. It adds a little bit of fruitiness. So you do have Lily of the Valley in here, Magnolia. Gardenia works really well with honeysuckle, but it does have honeysuckle in. So if you're looking for something with similar notes to honeysuckle and honeysuckle in, this is really pretty. It's very modern, and I think it's the only one in this list that has some fruity notes in it from the pear top note. They also have another one called Fable. I can't find my Ellis Brooklyn Discovery set to spray it, but Fable has honeysuckle in and then neroli, so that's a lemony green note combined with it. Honeysuckle definitely goes well with lemon. It's a common combination. So if you're looking for something quite green, it's quite unisex as well, but it does have honeysuckle as one of the main notes. So there are some old classic perfumes which used quite a bit of honeysuckle. So Burberry London, the one that had the check Burberry a check on it. This was very much a pretty white floral with honeysuckle. It did have some fruity orange notes in there, and again it's got jasmine in and tiare flower actually, and which are quite strong, but honeysuckle was noticeable in that. I'm not sure if it's still available. If it is, I'll leave the link below. And the other one is Tommy Girl from Tommy Hilfiger. Again, a really pretty youthful fragrance, lots of lemony and grapefruit notes in there with the honeysuckle, light, pretty, carefree. I did just do a video on the Jus box fragrances, and they have one called Suite of Lights. Now this is quite a clean, musky honeysuckle. They've added a little bit of violet in here, which gives it a bit of a musky, powdery dry down. Again, it feels quite unisex. Very clean, like a clean cotton feeling to it. But that is another honeysuckle perfume, really quite light as well. If you live in a humid climate, this could be good for you. And then also from Commodity Fragrances, where you can use code Soki on the Commodity Fragrances website to get 10% off everything there. And they have a fragrance called Nectar, which is one of my favorites. I'm running out of space here. And this is a really pretty springtime honeysuckle and neroli. So again, you've got those green lemony notes in with the honeysuckle. Feels very much like, you know, walking in a garden or a park in the springtime when everything's just starting to come up out of the ground. It also has a hint of orange blossom in as well. It does feel quite blossomy, again quite springtime. I think Nectar is part of their archive collection, and I believe like sometimes they have them in stock, sometimes they don't, but I'll leave the links anyway, because yeah, Nectar is definitely one of their prettiest, blossomiest, most sort of light floral they do from Commodity. Cool, so as you can see, there aren't like a huge amount of really honeysuckle perfumes. Definitely the Aerin one is my top recommendation, but let me know if there's any others you'd add to this list and which is your favorite from this list. Let me know in the comments. I do read all your comments, and all the links will be in the description box where you can get these perfumes around the world. But that's it guys, so thanks so much for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.